Good horror movie, but sometimes the truth is scarier than fiction. On this month's Hometown History, I went to Edgefield, South Carolina, also known as Bloody Edgefield. Duels, murder, and family feuds that rival the Hatfields and McCoys reign supreme with very few legal consequences. It was said that back then, if you wanted to get away with murder, you would do it in Edgefield.
Oh, they claim that every square inch of our square has had bloodshed upon it. We're known as Bloody Edgefield for a reason.
Tanya Guy is the Edgefield County Archivist. According to her, if you ask any Edgefield resident about Bloody Edgefield, the person they will tell you about is Becky Cotton, also known as the Devil in Petticoats. There are many stories and legends about Cotton, who is said to have married many times, killing each one of her husbands. She was tried for the murder of John Cotton, who she killed by putting an axe through his skull after he stood by and watched her father be murdered.
So she labels her husband a coward and says he's only fit to milk the cows and wear petticoats. And so she grows this seething hatred for him for the next 5 years.
After she killed him, she enlisted the help of her brother David to hide his body. Eventually, she stood trial for his murder, but she was acquitted of the crime.
Though they have all this overwhelming evidence against her, she was so bewitchingly beautiful, the jury felt like that this delicate creature could never have committed such a heinous act.
In May of 1807, Cotton was murdered on the steps of the courthouse by her brother Stephen, who was never charged with her murder. Her ghost is said to haunt those steps. Latriana Brown is a medium from Edgefield. She doesn't think John Cotton was Becky's only victim.
She's got a vendetta against men, and every time she got in trouble or she wanted something, she found a way to find a man that had what she wanted, and she was that black widow, and she would get what she wanted from them, and then she would murder them.
Brown says she's investigated claims of Cotton's ghost on the steps of the courthouse, and she believes them to be true.
I went up to the top of the steps just to get my bearings and kind of put myself in the moment, and was asking for some type of interaction from her. I started down the steps and I felt a light hand on my shoulder, and then as I went down, I heard, "Oh no."
Despite legend and Brown's belief that Cotton married over and over and killed each of her husbands, Guy says there's no record of that.
All I can tell you is I found no evidence of the other husbands. And actually, what's interesting are the trial records are missing for the time period when she would have been tried. So I can't even prove she murdered John.
Edgefield is the site of an 1878 shootout that was the result of a 10-year family feud between the Booth and Toney families. Both families attended a huge event celebrating the anniversary of the election of Governor Wade Hampton, who redeemed them from the radical Republican rule. They spent the day taunting each other, and it didn't end well. The Booths followed the Toneys into A.A. Clisby's bar room, and a fight ensued.
So Brooker Toney and Benjamin Booth come spinning out of the building, and they're spinning around and around and around onto the square, and Benjamin Booth is being hit over the head by Mark Toney with his gun. And so finally Benjamin Booth gets his gun out, puts it in Toney's abdomen, shoots him, and he falls down. He dies right on the courthouse square.
In the end, 3 were killed, 4 were wounded, and 9 were arrested and tried for murder. It was a media sensation that rivaled the shootout at the OK Corral. But Guy says there were no consequences for those involved.
9 were arrested and tried, and they're all acquitted. It was seen as self-defense.
On both sides?
On both sides.
Brown says when she's in the town square, she sees evidence of what she thinks could be leftover energy or ghosts from the shootout.
I've done a lot of them actually, of events here, and I just can't help but shake the fact that I'm feeling and seeing conflict on the other side of the square. I mean, we're standing in a place that has seen so much blood and so much violence that it can't help but be marked.
Some of the stories that contribute to Bloody Edgefield's reputation didn't happen in town, but were committed by Edgefield natives, most of them government leaders. One such case happened in 1856 in Washington, D.C. Senator Charles Sumner of Massachusetts made a speech on the Senate floor against allowing Kansas into the Union as a slave state. He verbally attacked Senator Andrew Butler of South Carolina and the state of South Carolina, which he likened to a harlot. Butler's cousin, Preston Brooks, read about Sumner's speech in the paper and became enraged.
So he walks up on the Senate floor right up to Charles Sumner, and he summarily beats him unconscious with his cane. Now, when he was asked why he did not challenge Sumner to a duel, he said, "Only men meet on the field of honor. I whipped him like the dog he was."
Another murder based in politics was committed by Edgefield native Lieutenant Governor James Tillman. He lost an election for governor, a seat previously held by his notorious uncle, Benjamin Pitchfork Ben Tillman. He felt the seat was his to inherit and blamed a journalist at the state newspaper, N.G. Gonzalez, for his loss.
And so Tillman just walked right up to him in broad daylight and shot him through his coat, his overcoat.
Tillman stood trial and, like so many others before him, was acquitted, though the jury had some help in that decision.
But the defense actually had a picture of him and a picture of Gonzalez. And they went around to all the people who in the area who would be potential jurors, and they were pretending to be photographers. And they say, well, let me show you a sample of our work. So they show them the pictures, and they would write down whether they were pro or con Tillman. And so when they selected the jury, they selected all pro Tillman.
The amount of blood spilled in Edgefield or by the people from Edgefield in the earliest days of its existence makes for a very colorful history. Brown says that history has resulted in a lot of paranormal activity that she looks forward to investigating.
I feel like the number of calls that I've gotten recently about activity, and I have a group on social media of people that are interested in the supernatural, the paranormal around Edgefield County. It shows me that people are very interested in this. It shows me that there's a lot of activity as well, and a lot of people are wanting answers.
It's a great month to learn more about the violent history of Edgefield. It could even make for a good horror movie. Hey, Edgefield, that's just part of your hometown history. Kim Vickers, WJBF, News Channel 6.